Enjoy the program today. To check out the book, go to the Nashville Public Library website. And for more information about the book Dreamers, visit the Nashville Reads page. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Miss Monica, and I'm with the Nashville Public Library's studio program. And I'm reading to you today Nashville Reads, Book of the Year, Dreamers, by Yuyi Morales. I dreamed of you. Then you appeared. Together we became Amor, Love, Amor. Resplendent life, you and I. One day, we bundled gifts in our backpack and crossed a bridge outstretched like the universe. And when we made it to the other side, thirsty, in awe, unable to go back, we became immigrants. Migrantes, you and I, the sky and the land welcomed us in words unlike those of our ancestors. There were so many things we didn't know, unable to understand, and afraid to speak. We made lots of mistakes. You and I became camarantes. Thousands and thousands of steps we took around this land until the day we found a place we had never seen before. Suspicious, improbable, unbelievable, surprising, unimaginable. Where we didn't need to speak, we only needed to trust. And we did. Books became our language. Books became our home. Books became our lives. We learned to read, to speak, to write, and to make our voices heard. Someday, we will become something we haven't even yet imagined. But right now, we are stories. We are two languages. We are lucha. We are resilience. We are hope. We are dreamers, sonadoras of the world. We are love, amor, love. Thanks for listening.
Hey everyone, this is Anne-Marie with Turnip Green Creative Reuse, and today I will be leading you through an art project called Literary Self-Portraits, and it is based on the short story picture book, a beautiful picture book called Dreamers by Yuyi Morales that tells the story of a woman and her child who are immigrants to a new world. There's a part of the story where we learn that the woman and her child happen upon a library, which to them is a magical place and becomes a home for them. And on those few pages about the library, we see images of the woman and her child surrounded by images of things that they're reading about, like a butterfly, a star and moon, a rocket ship, a bat. And so today we are going to be creating pictures of ourselves, self-portraits, surrounded by images that remind us of some of our favorite books. The materials that you need for this literary self-portrait are pretty basic. Let's zoom in. You need paper, a grainy paper, nothing that's too slippery so that it holds the paint. I will be using paint for mine. Something to cover your work area in. This is an old laminated map that I'm using. Coloring utensils. I'm using watercolor paints. You can use any kind of paint or any kind of coloring utensil. Markers, crayons, colored pencils, whatever you would like. If you have no paints at home, take your old dried markers, pop off the lids, put them upside down in water, and let the ink drain out, and you will create your own watercolor paints. Collage materials. I am using the trusty National Geographic magazines, scissors, and glue. The next step in completing your project is to brainstorm a list of some of your favorite books. You can also just pull some of those books off the shelf to get you reminded about what your favorite books are, some images that remind you of them. I'm currently reading this one, but I love it, called Salt to the Sea. And then there's a series of books about a young girl who dresses as a boy in Afghanistan to help her family earn money called, the first book is called Breadwinner. It's by Deborah Ellis. And then this is another book in that series. Some other books I have on my list, this is kind of sloppy, but that's okay. How the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accent, The Ring of Endless Light by Madeleine L'Engle. I have a lot of favorite books. I've decided to focus on a theme that I really like, which is female empowerment, strong women in history and around the world. And you will see next the images I chose from magazines to represent these stories. All right, I have my work area set up. I have my paper, I have my paints, I have my water for my paints. My next step is to look through magazines to find images, or I can create images that remind me of some of these favorite books that I talked about. Again, I have a lot of favorite books, but I'm narrowing it down to books about female empowerment across the world. And so after looking through magazines, I identified some images that remind me of some of these favorite books. This one reminds me of The Breadwinner. Here's another one, reminds me of how the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accents. I used to read a lot of Dear America books, which were diaries written from the perspective of different young girls in different parts of the world and the struggles that they were going through. So here's just a few of those images. And one of the themes in Madeleine L'Engle's books that I really love, like The Ring of Endless Light, is the connection between humans and certain mammals. She focuses on dolphins, particularly. I could not find images of dolphins, but I know that elephants are matriarchal, or females are the leads of groups of elephants. So I found a bunch of really cool images of elephants. I did find one image of a dolphin in a National Geographic. So those are the images that I will be using. My next step is taking these and cutting out around the images so that they're ready to go to put on my collage. So that's what I will do now. The big goals of a collage is when you're done, you want the whole paper to get filled up. So feel free to cut down your paper if you want to make a smaller collage. I'm going to keep mine. I've cut out some pretty big images and I've organized them. Here are my images of my animals, my elephants, and my dolphin. And then here are my images of strong women, characters around the world. And then here is my pile of scraps, which I am going to put in the recycle bin. And I also cut out an image of something that I just think is really beautiful and it reminds me of travel around the world. And this is something that I could use to fill up some space for the background of my collage. So after you find your images, your next step is to create your self-portrait. I will be 100% honest. Creating, drawing, painting, drawing, whatever, realistic portraits or realistic anything really isn't my forte. That being said, I'm gonna give it a shot. And also, using watercolor paints is really forgiving because the goal of watercolor paints isn't really to be super realistic because it spreads and it combines on your paper. It blends, the colors will blend together because it's water-based. So I'm gonna do what I do, which is more abstract creations, and I'm going to draw an abstract representation of me right here in the center of my paper. You can sketch your self-portrait first, or you can just get drawing. There are a lot of steps online for how to create a realistic self-portrait, but I'm just gonna get to it. So watercolors are fun because you can do a lot of mixing and creating of your own shades. Even if you mess up, they're really nice to go back over and cover up to get the color that you'd like. So it's not perfect, but I'm happy with it right now. What I like to do on self-portraits is include something extra that is identifying. So today and through quarantine, I've been wearing this scarf around my neck a lot, and so that's what I'm going to draw on my self-portrait today. Again, because I am more of an abstract creator, this helps the viewer to understand my drawings more. It's good to have something to wipe your brush on. I'm just going to use my scrap paper over here. It's a good use of scrap paper to wipe your brush on it. not loving this paintbrush, I suggest getting one with softer bristles. These are really hard and plasticky, so they're kind of hard to maneuver. So it ends up blending together to create a big hodgepodge of colors, but that's how I feel most of the time anyway, so that's okay. Now I'm gonna make some finishing touches on my self-portrait. I'm gonna put some things on my face. And for this, I'm actually going to use my markers because I'm finding that the watercolor paint and my paintbrush I'm using are really difficult. So I'm gonna take my markers now to be a little more detailed and specific. I'll want to make sure that my watercolor paint has dried before I do this part also, or at least is dry enough. And for my picture, I actually want to have my eyes closed to show that I'm using my imagination or that I'm daydreaming or thinking. And so I'm going to create the eyelashes under my eye to show that my eyes are closed. I'm gonna wait for my correction to dry, and then I'm gonna start doing the collage around my face. So I'm just putting my head here, which is kind of nice because when we read, what's happening is a lot of stories and adventures are going on in our mind. We're not actually moving anywhere. So I'm gonna start fitting to see where my images can go around my self-portrait. And I wanna divide up the images of the animals from the images of the humans. Well, humans are animals too. So the images of the humans from the images of the other animals. And I'm just going to lay it out now and not glue it just yet because I wanna make sure it all fits nicely. I might have to go back and cut some things. Again, I'm trying to fill up all the white spaces. I'm not worrying about making sure everything fits on the edge. If I want, I can go back and cut around. I'm just working on covering up all the white spaces that I see as best I can. So good. A lot of these fit really well, and so I'm just gonna move them to the side and start gluing down. That's the great thing about collage. It's really easy to fit things together. It's not like a puzzle. Things can overlap. It doesn't have to be perfect. Your biggest goal is really just to cover up the white space. You can focus on making the ideas connect, or you can focus on making the images look nicely together. images. Something that young people often have trouble with is the glue part. So what I sometimes suggest doing is pouring glue onto something and then having them use their finger. But what they really should focus on is using as little as possible, right? Just on the edges, as little as possible. Because the glue can be messy, we don't want to waste glue. It can mess up our collage. I think I need another animal image, and good thing I have one right here. See if I can find another image of a dolphin or some more women. Okay, so I found a few more images. This one's so great because it does remind me of A Ring of Endless Light by Madeleine L'Engle, about a character who loves to swim, and she develops a connection with dolphins. This one reminds me of the Dear America books that I used to read when I was younger, and a few others. I'm actually going to use my image so that I can cover up some of the background on the right side of my collage, because I have a lot of white space. So for the rest of the blank spaces on here, I'm going to take that image that I took out of the National Geographic, and I'm going to cut it up and fill in some of these white spaces. And then for the rest of the white spaces, I'm just going to paint them in with my watercolor paint, as well as go back and finish the face of my self-portrait. So I decided to use greens and blues to fill out the other white spaces because they contrast with the images that I chose from the magazine, which are a lot of browns and reds and oranges. And the green and blue also match with the beautiful picture I found of the mermaid or the girl in the water. What's really nice too is that your magazine images have a gloss over them. So if you accidentally splatter some watercolor paint on it, you can just use your finger or a napkin and wipe it off. that my self-portrait is dry, I'm going to go back and finish some of the detailing that I talked about earlier. I might be done. Thank you for joining me today on today's art project, Literary Self-Portrait. Here is my completed self-portrait again. And I added a quote on here just to pay homage and to show gratefulness towards the women on my collage and that are the stars of the stories that I read. I wrote, "You are the giants on whose stories I stand." So feel free to be creative with the pictures that you put on here, with the painting that you do with your self-portrait. Make sure that you recycle your scraps. Make sure that you save your scraps that you could use for future art projects. And have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this Nashville Reads program. Now, we would like to hear from you. So that we can provide you with the most relevant, high-quality programming, please take a minute to fill out the survey online or click on the survey available in the description box below. Thank you.